The reports are that Schwartz has kind of gone off the handle, that he told them, I'm not coming back as your coordinator. I will not coach for you. I want nothing to do with being here, even though he's under contract. And now, according to all the big national reporters, they're headed for divorce, and Schwartz plans on coaching elsewhere. So I want to cut this off at the pass to say the response in town's going to be that Washington dropped the ball because they didn't wait for Jim Schwartz. And that's okay if that's your take. That's fine. Jim Schwartz was not going to come here. Now, somebody reasonable might say, but you got to find out. And that's okay. You can do that if you want to. Maybe you will say
Did you steal my notes?
I did not.
Those are my 2 points.
I've worked with you for a long time, so I'd imagine that you would just want to talk to him. And to that, I would say, I got mountains to move. I got a Senior Bowl to evaluate. I had a Shrine game last week. I need to find my coordinator, and I'm dealing with what is and not what I wish was. But in the same way that Brian Flores was not coming here, everybody got very mad at me about saying this is not a good enough job to get Brian Flores. It was not a good enough job, as we found out, to get a lot of guys. Raheem Morris or Jonathan Gannon or others. This is not a good enough job to entice Jim Schwartz. Even though he has some local ties, I think he went to Georgetown. There's just better jobs available. So he was not coming here. I'm okay with what they did. Let's rock and roll.
I think I'm ultimately okay as well. I can say that and also say you got to talk to Jim Schwartz. Now, what you need to do...
How long are you going to wait? Like, what if in 2 weeks another guy we really like comes available?
Fair enough, but it was yesterday. So, I understand your point, but it's 24 hours. I could wait that long. I could probably do that. I'm not waiting a month. I'm not going to wait until Arizona finds a head coach.
You could have waited until after the Super Bowl for Carl Scott. Should they have done that? As far as first-timers go, that's a more exciting one than what they did.
If you end up loving him, then totally. I guess my point is I need they don't have a precedent right now of talking to the really accomplished guy. Or waiting or trying to do that.
This is a Mike McDaniel thing?
This is a Mike McDaniel opinion. Like, there's a number of guys.
This is a Mike
Vrabel thing. So, so far, we're like, we got a big offer in that department. Like, let's get a 1 for. Let's break the slump, go 1 for 19. Let's get on the board there with the base knock. He may not have come here. I would love to have found out.
I would feel way more confident knowing Jim Schwartz was their defensive coordinator going into the year. And I would even say, as someone who loves the Brian Flores defense and is glad that they're going the route that they are to try to run some Brian Flores-y things, I would rather have Jim Schwartz, knowing he's a great defensive coordinator and play caller.
Has been in a million spots with a million different sets of circumstances, has turned in some really good results.
He is a known commodity who's very good. You're hoping Durante Jones becomes Jim Schwartz. So, yes, I would rather have Schwartz. I don't think this is a very good job.
I'm sure of that. I agree with you.
The head coaching job would be a good job. The offensive coordinator job was an amazing job. You get to work with Jaden Daniels. I think most people around the league would tell you that is one of the great jobs that would have come available, which is why staying internal and going first-timer, while I'm cool with it and would have done something similar, I think was surprising to a lot of people, especially when they didn't talk to McDaniel. But as much as I like the OC job and the head coach job here, if it were to be open, the DC job is really, really bad. You've got a defensive-minded head coach, you don't have very good defensive players, and you've got a coach seemingly on a warming seat.
Yeah, possible short-termer there. No, for sure.
Other than that, how was the play?
Well, but it's not as if Schwartz is used to nothing but stability. He's been in Cleveland. But yes, but I get it.
But I'm just saying there's like 6 or 7 other DC jobs that he looks at and he goes, I would rather work there.
I bet you're probably right. You know how I find that out? Just that quick convo. And what I hope behind the scenes is that somebody reached out at some point and go, hey, if you don't get the Cleveland gig, or if you don't get promoted, keep us in mind. Whether that happened or not, again, I don't have a lot of confidence based on the fact that they refused to speak to really qualified candidates multiple times over these last couple of years. So my bet is it's just, oh, wow, that's a surprise. Look at this, but we already got somebody. Again, Durante Jones, I'm into it. I think it's a good call. It's the sous chef from a really, really good kitchen that I like eating at. All in favor. Sounds good. Same way, and with David Blau. I just need that conversation to have happened. Let him tell you to kick rocks with your stupid job. You could try to sell him on your vision. He could sell you on yours. That's very reasonable. That's what the process is supposed to look like.
Another interesting way to look at this, too, is we keep talking about this through the lens of what Washington did and like who they chose rather than almost who chose
them. Yeah.
I think sometimes we forget about that with these searches, honestly. But I wonder if they just got to draft coaches like the NFL draft and you don't get to say where you go. You come kicking and screaming if that's what it takes.
Right.
But like Washington's turn in the waiver wire claim, we claim Mike McDaniel. He's our offensive coordinator. It's our turn in the defensive coordinating search. We claim Brian Flores or Jim Schwartz or whatever. Would they have done that over what they did? I think on defense, the answer is yes. I think on offense, the answer is no.
It might not be.
I think that a lot of fans, and Danny Rouillet, not telling you you're wrong, Danny Houtier, I think you wanted Mike McDaniel. I think they preferred David Blau, to be honest. On defense, I think they ended up with a guy because a lot of their better choices that they liked either said no or weren't available, which doesn't mean it's a bad hire. But I just wonder if they had their druthers and they got to just, this is a claw machine
that, by the way,
Chuck E. Cheese.
Is $1 million
they
question.
Get to pick a coach and drop him into the Commander's bucket, and now you're ours. Who would they have come away with?
I bet you it would have been Blau as well. And by the way, again, as we talked about last week, that's a perfectly reasonable result. That is not crazy. Again, I said this 1 million times. I'll say it 1 million more. We're all products of our lived experience. What did we live through? Really smart people, both in the front office. See John Schneider going to another Super Bowl. Good for him. And really qualified, smart young coaches. Perfectly reasonable thing to land on. I need you to land on it, though, after talking to Mike McDaniel. It's just so intuitive. It's just so obvious. Anybody trying to argue something else, I don't see it. I always try to see the other side. There's no other side to me. I'm not talking that you have to hire Mike McDaniel or you had to wait for Jim Schwartz. You have to talk to him, though. You got to do some kind of outreach. And if you don't, you didn't do a very good process. Both candidates are good. I like both guys that are hired. They both make a lot of sense to me. It makes just as much sense with or without doing the full, complete search, which they didn't do.
And the reason I brought it up the way that I did with what would they prefer versus what happened versus what would they have drafted, so to speak.
Yeah.
I want it to inform how I feel about the pressure Dan Quinn's feeling. He is not hiring like a guy that has to start fast in September, in my opinion. He is not hiring like a guy that needs to have a winning season or get back into the playoffs next year. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, when you go get Blau, when everybody says, hey, when you've never been a coordinator before, when you've never even truly, honestly, been a position coach before, he was the assistant quarterbacks coach, there's going to be some rough patches here. I remember talking years ago to Sean McVay about when he took over play calling and Kirk Cousins about that early on, infancy of building that offense up together in the quarterback room with McVay. There were speed bumps for one of the true savants, really cerebral and intuitive, sharp superstars over the last quarter century of offensive coaching, who's turned into a juggernaut, who's in the NFC Championship game more often than not now. And he's one of the brightest, but it was hard at first. And if you would have just had to have won in that first year, by the way, they didn't, you would have been in trouble. And if you're blowing out a coach, and possibly that means blowing out McVay, he's just in a different building. And if you were to fire Quinn after this year because they struggled, maybe lose David Blau, who's to say he's not the next guy? But I think when you have two coordinators that you need to hire, and you go get a guy who's never called offensive plays or even been an OC, like you could be an OC, pass game coordinator, what have you, and do a lot of that work without getting to call the plays because your coach calls the play on Sundays. Blau hasn't even done that.
Right.
He's not like the OC under a LaFleur or a McVay or one of these dudes that calls their own plays. And then on defense, you're going with a guy, now he has been a pass game coordinator, but has never been a coordinator either and has never called plays on game day. Did it in the SEC a handful of years ago at LSU. So there's risk in that, but I bring this up to say, are people sure that our perception of Dan Quinn's seat temperature is actually accurate? If he was on a hot seat, which he is not, I think you do something different with these hires.
Yep.
If he was on a warming seat, which he probably is, he has to be after a year like this, in a league where 10 guys just lost jobs, almost a third of the league, you'd imagine the seat is getting warmer. But I bet you we think it's warmer than it is.
I think that's the phrase right there. That's it. And I think that's what I missed in looking at this process. To quote Dan Quinn, we missed it.
Like you and I at the end of the season, I think we were off base when we said he's lucky he's not losing his job. I don't think that was like an iota of a gleam. And people always used to joke like you weren't even a twinkle in your parents' eyes or whatever.
Yep.
Like I don't even think
that wasn't a twinkle in Adam Peters' eye.
No, I don't think it was nearly as close as everyone thinks it should have been.
It's the mistake that I think I've made here. I don't want to speak for you, but I'll give my mea culpa. I definitely was ascribing to the situation my fury, frustration, anger, disappointment, bitterness, disbelief, all of the emotions that all of us felt as fans when this rug pull of a season happened. And the terrible stretch that I still think a lot of the fan base is underestimating as to how truly epically bad it was, in addition to losing 11 to 12, whatever the hell the number was, that month of uncompetitive football that has only happened one other time this century. It's not like, the Titans, they lost, or pick a number one. No. This is special bad. Extra bad, to such a degree that all bets should be off. They weren't. I feel that. I don't know that they were. This is the behavior, reading the tea leaves, of somebody that's gotten that vote of confidence, not the public one, not the dreaded vote of confidence from ownership, but a real one. Hey man, I don't know what the verbiage was, but I imagine it's something to the effect of, I put you in a bad spot, the injuries happened, we went veteran again this year, not your fault that it went this way, you tried to right the ship, stuff happens above your pay grade, you were a good soldier on Terry McLaurin, not your fault, that's management stuff. You add up all the different things, we still think Dan Quinn, culture building, hat backwards cliche guy, is exactly what we need. We're riding with you. I didn't see that, and I probably should have.
So I thought a month ago, if they get off to a 1-4 start or an 0-3 start, the Wolves are going to be at the doors. The reports are going to be out there that Dan Quinn's in trouble. And I don't think I view it that way anymore. Now, yesterday I tweeted something along the lines of, if they go 7-10 and Jaden Daniels looks like he's able to stay healthy and the 2024 version of himself a bunch, if he plays at that level a lot, you're probably not going 7-10, let's be honest. But he looks a lot more like his rookie year than this year. A lot of the questions about durability and just how he's played go away. And David Blau looks like the answer at OC until he gets a head coaching job in a couple years. At 7-10, I think he keeps his job. But I said that on the show yesterday, and you wouldn't believe. I mean, a lot of people were like, that's insane. He should absolutely not keep his job if they're under 500 in his third year. I don't know if it's just the NFC Championship game spinning in the back of my head where that was the get-out-of-jail-free card this year, and maybe it'll have some relevance into year 3. I'm not sure, but I think that just generally, the way fans feel about the importance of a fast start and what is necessary for him, what bar he's got to clear to have job security after this year is probably very different than Peters, who might feel like, okay, guys, it's only year 2. We're a little off course because we tried to go for it.
Yep.
I don't think they did, actually. If they did, it was a funny way of doing it. But this offseason, they kind of said, you know what? Let's push for it. We waited a year to get younger and to try to do some of the things we'll do this offseason. But this is still the long-term solution. Look at 2024. That's kind of how I think they're thinking behind the scenes.
Yeah, so let me play that out. Let's say it this way. We need to go through the growing pains that we sidestepped in year 1. Normally, when you start a new regime, new rebuild, you get the 6-10 type season where it's younger players, it's figuring out who your guys are, maybe a couple vets to come in to help set the culture, but you're turning over a new leaf. You're really gearing up for that year 2. Well, they wandered into an NFC title game year 1, and it worked better than anybody could have imagined. There is no way you can go, we spent punter money on Cleveland Farrell, Dante Fowler, and a bunch of other guys. We throw darts at the board, and they turned out to play frontline starters for a 12-5 team. No one could have seen that coming. Nobody, right? With Noah Brown. Noah Brown wasn't the plan, but he got cut last minute. They went, we'll try that. That'll be our number 2. Their number 2 was going to be Jamison Crowder, Olamide Zaccheaus, or somebody in between. So it worked better than you could have thought, but they sidestepped the growing pains. Maybe that's how they view it. Maybe once you go out and there's not a new acquisition that's over 27 years old, making this up, but that's the new data point. We're going to be younger and faster. There might be growing pains with that. So maybe a 7-10 season that we're going to be like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Maybe they're going, yeah, but you wait, you watch. We got something going now. It's a different track.
But I'm talking about this from the perspective of Peters as I think about it too. Where what matters really is ownership, honestly, and we don't know that part of it. But Peters and Quinn are in unison on everything.
Yeah.
So he's going to give him all the time, and he's going to probably be much more patient, and they're just closer. They're buddies. Whereas, Dan Quinn's got to get on the phone every Monday with Adam Peters to answer questions from Josh Harris or whatever. And I wonder if they were to go 7-10 or 8-9 this year, where Peters would go, we're in good shape, let's keep pushing forward here. Maybe Josh Harris wouldn't. We don't know a whole lot about his patience. You could look at other sports and how he's operated to inform that, but this is just a different league. I mean, look, again, 10 coaches are out of jobs. Sean McDermott won a playoff game out of a job because he couldn't punch through and get to a Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl. Mike Tomlin hasn't had a losing season, out of a job. John Harbaugh has been sniffing around, knocking on the door of a Super Bowl for years, out of a job. It's just a different thing here.